And we're live. Hello. Thank you for joining me again for part 2 of week 2. My name is artist Diyah Najah, and I'm presenting to you my live workshop where I will be creating a full-scale mixed media collage, including elements of lino cut. Where we left off last week was I was showing you how I created the lino cut, and I was also showing you some of the tools that I used. It was impossible to get to the inking and printing portion of my relief carving, but in the time in which we paused, I did do some more larger scale cuts. Okay, so I did some more larger scale cuts for you. I've even done a few smaller scale cuts. And today we're going to do some inking. So thank you for tuning in. I'll spend 30 minutes with you today just showing you different techniques and different ways that I ink my mixed media pieces. If you can recall from the weeks before, I'm doing pieces that include a few names that I shared with you last week, which was Brianna and Elijah, as well as Deborah. And I didn't get into the nitty-gritty of what this piece was about, but it is going to include elements of the Nigerian Egungun masquerade dancers. And I would advise you to look it up just so you can see how I'm pulling those elements in. The first week we did do some paper designing with texture and color, bringing things alive and popping them out. And then I'm going to show you how we bring it all together in future videos. So stay tuned with me. I'm going to place you on pause and set up my work area, and we'll get right to work. So I work with 2 cameras. So here are my hands. You'll see me up here, and here are my hands. Just wanted to let you know so that you didn't get confused, so that you can see some of my work area and some of the tools that I'm using and the materials that I'm using to create. So I'm going to head and put you on pause again and set us up. So for the purpose of this video, I'm using some water-based ink. You'll be doing it on a clean, flat surface. A lot of people use glass. I use glass. I also use plexiglass. So this here is a piece of plexiglass, and I'm adding into it some ink retarder. Some people use ink extender. The ink retarder changes the texture of the water-based ink just a little bit. I'm using Speedball ink retarder. I'm using Blick water-based ink just for the purposes of this video. For the purposes of this video, I will also be using mixed media paper when I am creating the pieces for my collectors. I'm using BFK Reeves. You want to use the best archival products that you have access to. For the purpose of this workshop, you can use some mixed media paper. And so I'm using my rolling tool. It's a soft rubber tool, and I'm just picking up some of this ink as I go along. I'll bring it in this direction as well. The amount of ink I use is quite a bit, but I am about to ink a large surface. Sometimes when I feel like I have too much ink on my roller, I bring it on to the other side just to get some off. In this process, you're going to have, especially when you're just starting out, some waste. So I encourage you to buy newsprint. You definitely don't want to do your first test print on an expensive piece of paper. Okay? So here's the piece that I'm going to be working on. it's a border piece, and so I just wanted to show you how it's also kind of empty in the middle. There's a reason for that. This piece right here that I've created fits into the border piece. As I told you, you can be creative with your pieces, and you can with your linoleum, and you can cut out and reshape and pull out a piece, especially if you want that piece to be of a different color. You can pull out the piece and it fits together like a puzzle. I would say that's not a beginner level skill, but definitely try it, especially when you're in practice mode. So this piece fits together as one, like this. And I just wanted to show you that. And it's pretty tricky. So like I said, it's not a beginning level skill. I would not start off with something like this. But for your eyes, and for the purpose of this video, we're going to have a little bit of fun. Definitely wear your protective clothing. When rolling out, definitely roll out on also a piece of newsprint or a piece of paper that you're not interested in, and I'll show you why as I begin to roll. See that? See how it messes up the paper there? You want to make sure that you're rolling on top of a piece of scrap paper. I'm rolling in one direction, just rolling and lifting up the ink. In the beginning, I'm coating. I'm moving back and forth in all directions. I'm just trying to get the ink on just in the beginning. This is the first time that this linoleum is receiving the ink. Many things can happen at this point. If you've not thoroughly brushed this piece off and brushed off all the crumbs of linoleum, you will see them. They will show up in your print. They're covered in ink now. You may not know that they're there. So you definitely want to get a hard bristled brush that'll allow you to brush off that excess linoleum. First print is called a test print. Alexa, turn volume down. Realize Alexa may be playing Beethoven a little too loud for you. So I'm going to go ahead and get the ink on as much as possible. Another thing you want to watch out for when you're using your really good paper is, did any excess ink come off on the edge? In my case it did. You don't want to have a ruined piece of work. It always helps me to have a nice rag with some cleaning solvent just to get it off the edge. Because I'm using water-based ink, it dries much faster than oil-based ink. I'm going to give it a final roll going in one direction this time, so I'm not picking up any ink, only attempting to lay it down. And so here is the image inked. What I'm going to do is lift this up. I'm going to flip this piece of paper because remember it has ink all over it. I'm going to center this. There are ways to center it where you're not eyeing it like I am. There are ways to do it properly. And I will show you that later on in this video. So I'm just lining up my paper with my other piece of same size paper, and I'm letting it fall over the piece. I'm gently pressing my hands, trying to make sure that I'm not sliding the paper. Each paper is different. Some paper is more absorbent. So if you have more absorbent paper, like BFK Reeves or any type of rag content paper, even some watercolor papers, then the ink will kind of stick and absorb to it. I'm using, for the purpose of these videos, mixed media paper, and I'm just gently, just kind of rubbing over the paper because I'm hand pressing. If I were pressing in a printer press, I would still do the same thing gently, but I'm going to show you some of the tools that I like to use. Okay, and I'm going to bring a surprise tool out. I don't let a lot of people use this tool, but I'll show you. And that is my heavy duty marble rolling pin. So for now, just gonna take my hand and press down and add pressure. Not too much pressure because we don't want the paper to slide. I am what they call heavy-handed. I know I'm heavy-handed. I enjoy being heavy-handed. Sometimes it presses into the paper. The pressure, that's how I know that my print is the way I want it to be. And let's talk about the print being the way you want it to be. Sometimes I don't want my print to be solid and graphic. Sometimes I want my print to have a little bit of distress to it, meaning some parts looking burnished, some parts looking darker than the other, some parts looking lighter, some parts looking more crisp. There is a special tool that helps for crispness. Oh yeah, everything is a tool. So here we have a wooden spoon. And you can just get some cleaner areas of your print if that's what you want in some areas. Like for instance, why would you want some areas super dark and in some areas more burnished? When I'm doing hair, when I want my pieces to look more, how can I say this? More earthy. If I'm working on some brick that I may have carved. So in using this spoon, I'm going to show you just a little bit by lifting up a corner of my work. Now remember, when you are printing, you are getting a mirror image. And as I was trying to explain to you last week, that's really evident in the direction of the figure that you're working with. It's really evident when you're doing letters and words, for sure. I would say it's the most evident when doing letters and words. I want you to look at how much time I'm spending on this. Difference between oil-based ink and water-based ink is oil-based ink takes days to dry. And don't be in a humid environment, it'll take forever. Okay, because environment also affects your drying time. Let me just lift up a corner so that you can see. See that? I like it. I like it. I love the spoon. I really love the spoon. A lot of master printmakers use the spoon. Check on me in a few years. I will give you my master printmaker opinion, but I have watched master printmakers using this spoon. And I said check on me in a few years because I love this. I'm married to this. Oh, wow. Ooh wee. I like that. I could be done right now. Let me be done. So I'm gonna lift this up. But you know what? Ooh. So I like that. I'm gonna do something really important right now because I decided I'm going to attempt to show you the fitting in of the second piece. So I pulled out some blue tape. Some people use these Tim Burton pins. That is above our levels right now. So I'm going to take this tape and I'm going to just stick it right there, right on the edge. Right here on the edge. It's on the table. It's on the two pieces of paper. Exactly as I found it. I'm not shifting anything. I'm not moving anything around. But I am holding something in place where I want it. Okay? I'm going to pause while I ink this middle piece because I'm going to attempt to fit this in and show you what could happen. All right? All right, so remember what I said about taking the brush and getting off the excess, especially when you're working with a lot of fine lines. Also note that I'm about to ink on top of a piece of scrap paper or newsprint. Trying to get off some of the excess ink. And this is always fun to watch. Watching the image turn dark as you ink it. Really like your first chance to see your hours of work and what it looks like when the ink is on it. I'm seeing a few crumbs that the brush didn't pick up, so I'm using my hand just to get it up. And those are the things you'll find and you'll spot when you are doing your test print. So keep a good eye out for that. And everywhere that you pulled it up with your finger, you know, you have to re-ink it because essentially you pulled up the ink at the same time. Gonna get a little bit more ink on it. Too much ink and you'll fill in your fine lines and they won't show up. I'm gonna fit this into the other piece like a puzzle. I'm gonna pause the video while I fit it. So as you can see here, I've gone ahead and fit that in. And I'm gonna lay it on down. I'm gonna do the same thing I did before, which is just put a little bit of pressure on just to get the paper to stick. I'm going to go ahead and start using my tool to add the pressure in. I'm heavy-handed. You don't have to be as heavy-handed as I am, but I enjoy seeing the print show up through the paper. Not every paper will allow for this. A lot of Japanese papers are quite thin, and so you can get this element of printing when you're adding the pressure and you're burnishing. You'll start to see the imprint through the back. And on this camera, I don't expect you to see that right now. I'm just going to take a quick peek. All right, taking a quick peek. And I'm going to pause the video right there, and we'll move forward in just a second and see what's going on next. So I took a little bit more time to add the pressure to get the image on. And remember, we're creating a test print. A test print is a good time for you to see where you need to work harder, what you need to do different next time. So don't worry. That's literally the purpose of the test print. So let's see what we have. Take this tape off. I'm going to gently pull this up. Let's see what we're working with. 1 second. Now, the beauty of this is we can do it again and again, okay? That's the beauty to me of working with this medium of printmaking. What do you think about that? So I'm going to continue to play with this print. And I'm going to do it again because me, I'm not satisfied. So I'm going to work on it one more time. All right? I have some tweaks I want to make. But this is a beautiful example of a two-tone print piece here. And it is not beginner level. It is a higher level skill. But if you keep working, you will be able to get to this point for sure. All right? If you have questions, I do love questions. You can email me at Diyah, Najah, and it is spelled on the Johns Creek website, but I'll spell it for you right now. Artist, A-R-T-I-S-T, Diyah, D-I-Y-A-H, Najah, N-A-J-A-H, at Gmail, because we can get into more conversation about this. Like, I think I would do something live for you as well, so you can ask me questions in real time. And so I just wanted to show you an example of bringing out the print. And I'll do it again for you. I'll show you another view of it before I end this video. Hold tight. So the test print is a chance for you to see what you liked, what you didn't like, and it's an opportunity for tweaking. So I have done one tweak, which is to cut down the edges of my middle portion of the print. And I'm also going to take this time to take off and clean this print, clean off any lint or any residual pieces of linoleum that are in my way and affecting my print. And I'm going to take a look at my border piece that I've cut here and that I've carved here and see what do I want to do with this piece. I'm thinking I want to cut off some of the edges on this piece, and so I'll do that and see how I like it. Now remember, once you cut, that's it. It's gone. Okay? So take a good look at your test print and decide for yourself what elements you really want to keep and what elements you don't. So for me, I'm going to take off a lot of the noise around the edges. And the noise is what I call some of the extra lines, the raised portions that have picked up some ink. I want to get rid of some of that noise so that we can focus more so on the design and the border and not really be distracted by a lot of other movement. Noise, movement is what I call the raised portion of the print that picks up the ink. So I'm just letting you see in real life what it looks like when you want to tweak. And that's something that I would suggest you only do after looking at your test print. Because once it's gone, it's gone. And it's gone. So look over this, look for any raised pieces of linoleum. I'm not too concerned with this piece, this border piece, because for me, the more grittier, the better. I love a little bit of inconsistency. I embrace it. But that does not work for every print, okay? And sometimes inconsistencies in your print ruins the addition. It depends on what your intentions are. I tend to do a lot of prints that I would like to look as earthen as possible. but I also do some super graphic prints, okay? So I have tweaked. I'm gonna clean up my work session. I'll be right back. All right, this is round 2. I'm inking my Carve again with fresh ink. In the beginning, just to get the ink on, I am going back and forth, but once I've got a good coat of ink on, and be on the lookout now, because you don't have the contrast to let you know that you've got good ink on. You're gonna have to use your good eyes. Make sure everything is coated with fresh ink. Since now we're doing red on red, you might miss a spot because it's got that mild red underneath. So make sure that you're getting in enough pressure and coating it with ink everywhere. Messy like I am, you may have gotten ink on the edges. Remember to wipe it off. I feel like I've got a good coat on here. I'm satisfied. I'm gonna lift it up, flip this over. I'm gonna eye it and center it. There are ways to do it different than that. But this is what I'm doing for the purpose of this video. Also, because I rough up the edges of my prints anyway. Most of them, not all, most of them. So there we have the middle piece. I'm gonna move pretty quickly because again, I'm dealing with water-based ink. And I'm going to move this over. Don't want to mess up the paper. And I'm going to ink the middle piece with the darker ink. Again, I don't have the contrast to help me anymore, so I want to make sure that I'm coating as much as possible. And I'm going to move fast. So let me go ahead and pause us for a second. I'll be right back when I'm done. Alright, I've got the ink on, and I'm going to fit my print in where it's supposed to go. Should have a better fit now because I did clear out some space on the edges. And it's going to lay right on in there. Good. I like to let you see the reel, so I am poking it in flat with the tip of my scissors, being careful not to touch the ink. And now she is where I want her. All right, so she's fit in, as you can see, and I'm moving fast because I'm dealing with water-based ink. I'm going to take my paper, I'm just going to line it up at the bottom. Now, do you have inky hands? If you do, wipe them off. Touch the edges of the print. I'm laying her down gently, and I'm rubbing my hands gently over the image, just so I can get a little bit of stick with that ink to the paper. Also, I'm pressing things into place where I want them. I think I will show you my handy dandy tool. You hear that? This has some weight to it. Start from the middle and push out in one direction. Just applying pressure. If I wanted to, I could print the whole print with just my marble rolling pin. Remember, we are not currently using a printer press, so I'm showing you hand print. I hope you can hear in my voice that I am using and applying some pressure, especially on the edges. You can forget the edges. Okay, you want to make sure that you're applying similar pressure around this piece, not to forget the edges. And you'll know when you're on the edge. You can feel when you're on the edge. It's one of my favorite feelings, getting that edge nice and crisp. If I wanted to, and I am, I'm going to show you what the pressure of this rolling pin does. I think it's quite effective. I am in a lino cut group on Facebook, and I found out about this technique through there. So just to show you real time, what you're seeing is what I'm seeing. Let's just see the effectiveness of the rolling pin. I told you it's quite effective. I'm in love. I'm going to lay it back down. I think I'll bring in my spoon. I also have a rock from U.S. Virgin Islands, St. Croix. I don't know how I brought that rock back. I don't know if I was supposed to, but it's a beautiful rock, and I use it in my printmaking. My aunt gave it to me. My aunt and uncle gave me this right here from their kitchen. So for me, the tools that I use to work with have deep meaning. They're not just something I bought from the store, especially using found objects or objects that have been given to me. I've gone as far as to use a cup, a glass cup from the dollar store, to apply pressure. I have a really strong feeling that this piece is going to be lovely. I'm over the edges. I'm going over the middle. Obviously, the more pressure, the more ink I'm picking up. I like the rhythm underneath. I like going over the different cuts and feeling the vibration. I want to tell you about these pieces. I know it's kind of secretive. I've been kind of secretive about them, but to be honest, the pieces I'm creating for this workshop have been kind of hard to swallow. Ooh, I got a feeling I'm done. I hear it. I can see the pressing of the design through the back part of the paper. I like that. You do not have to do that. It's extra for me. This is very tactile work for me. It's very soothing in that way. So let's pull it up. Notice I'm keeping my hand down here in place. What if I pull it up and it's not what I want, and then it's shifted? I'm in big trouble. So let's say I want to go over this foot a little bit more. Keeping my hand in place. I'm just taking a peek. Now, taking a peek from one direction is tempting, but don't do that. Because what if on the other direction it's not what you want? couldn't be happier. I'll be right back. Let us take some time to take a good look at what we've done, all right? Okay, so this is what we've created today. Just me showing you where we go from the carve to the print. All right, I will see you next week.